need to do is to choose either a glass or metal bowl and a saucepan that fits underneath so that the bowl sort of sits over the top of it and doesn't sink in too far. What you're going to do is to just put a small amount of water into the bottom of the pan and then just bring it up to the boil, and once it comes up to the boil just drop it right down onto its lowest heat. Then you're going to break 150 grams of dark chocolate into the glass or metal bowl and place it over the very low heat so we can gently melt that chocolate. Next thing I'm going to do is to separate my eggs. So I've got myself three things. I've got my large bowl, I've got my jug, and I've just got a little glass dish out of the drawer in the kitchen. What you need to do is to make sure, it's really important that you've washed your jug with hot soapy water and dried it, because we need to make sure that there's definitely no grease on the inside of it. Then we're going to take one egg at a time, crack it off the edge of the glass dish so you get a little slit in the side, get your fingers in and gently pull it apart, and just keep the yolk on the one half of the shell and then go from one side to the other really carefully so that you don't break that yolk. And then you're going to place the yolk in the large bowl. You're going to put the white into the jug, and then you're going to repeat with the other egg. So crack it, get your fingers in, carefully pull it apart. I sort of keep it up on its end when I do that so that the yolk stays in the one side of the shell, most of the white comes out, and then just transfer it back and forth once or twice, being really careful not to pierce the yolk. If you do break the yolk, you can't use that egg. So the yolk goes in the large bowl, the second white goes into the jug. Back to my chocolate, as you can see, it's starting to melt. Just going to give it a little stir. If you go too mad moving it around, it can overwork the chocolate, so we're going to be quite gentle with it. We literally want it to just melt, and that's it. So probably another 30 seconds or so and that'll be fully melted with no lumps. All of the chocolate has now melted. There's no lumps left in there. I'm going to be careful to turn it straight off so I don't overheat it, and then carefully lift it off. As you can see, as soon as I went to lift it, quite a lot of steam came out. It's not a bad idea to use your oven gloves to lift it off. We're just going to find somewhere to pop that to one side, and you're finished with the saucepan. That's ready for washing. My egg whites to one side for a moment. I've got my yolks in my bowl. I'm going to put my caster sugar in, so that's 3 tablespoons of caster sugar, and I'm going to whisk that using an electric whisk, just on the lowest speed to start off with until all of the sugar is incorporated. And I'm just going to whisk that until it's foaming. So I've been going for about 1 minute. Because there's quite a small amount of mixture, what I've done is I've just tipped the bowl down onto one side, and then I think I'm going to get better access to it this way. So I'm going to carry on. It's definitely not foamy yet. I'm going to turn up the speed and keep going. So as you can see, it's really thick and frothy now. Looks a bit like buttercream or something like that. So I'm happy with the consistency of that. So I'm going to stop. Okay. Then I'm going to add my next ingredients in, and this is optional depending on what you want to use. So everyone's going to use some cocoa powder, and then you could add some coffee, you could add some mint extracts, you could use some orange extracts or fresh orange and the zest of an orange, something like that. I've made up a little shot of coffee over here. So I've just got sort of 1 shot of espresso coffee, so I'm going to pop that into mine. And I've also got some Irish cream. Obviously you're not going to be able to bring anything alcoholic into school, but if you were making it at home for adults, you could add something in like this. And then I'm going to add the cocoa as well. And then I'm going to stir those together with my whisk. Passing all of that cocoa through the sieve. I'll show you the reason why, is because you usually get some lumps in the cocoa. So we'll just press those through with the back of the spoon or with your fingers there. And then switch over to a balloon whisk, sort of a handheld balloon whisk. And we're just going to stir that through until all of the ingredients are mixed together. Those ingredients are mixed together now. Next we're going to take our chocolate, which has just been cooling down. Hopefully it hasn't set completely. And we're going to scrape all of that out of the bowl and then mix that in with the rest of the ingredients. That's going to have thickened up quite a lot once you've added the chocolate. So that's all mixed together now. It's looking nice and glossy. Now the next bit's really important. You're going to take your whisk beater and your glass or metal bowl over to the sink, and you're going to give it a really thorough wash with hot soapy water to remove all of the chocolate and the egg mixture off of those items. Just my beaters and my bowl. I changed my water halfway through. It's really important there must not be any greasy residue. It has to be sort of squeaky clean in there. We use a metal or glass bowl because with plastic it doesn't seem to work quite as well. I think because plastic's sort of oil based. So we're going to pop our egg whites into our glass or metal bowl. We are going to take a pinch of salt, and then we're going to take our clean whisk beaters and we're going to whisk these egg whites until they're really light and frothy, starting off with a low speed. Again, you can tip the bowl to one side to get all the egg whites in one place. And start off nice and slow and increase the speed, and you'll see it will start to froth quite quickly and go all foamy and frothy. Still quite liquid at the moment. You want it to be quite thick and white, like shaving foam. Okay, so you can see now that the mixture's nice and thick. It's a bit like shaving foam, and if I lift my beaters out, it will keep its peak. So we know that that's ready. So I'm just going to a few more seconds. I've probably been whisking it for about 2 minutes. And I'm carefully going to lift my beaters out so that I can flick the majority of the mixture off. Right, then I'm just going to transfer over to my cream. I've got 200 mils of cream in this small bowl. I'm going to go in the beaters and really slowly start the beaters. And I'm going to whisk this until this gets nice and frothy as well. It's going to take on a bit of air. It's going to start to go thick. Depending on what temperature your cream is and exactly what the fat content will depends how long that takes. But we're moving the beaters around, not just standing with them there in the same place. We have to be really careful that we don't make butter by accident. If we over whisk the cream, we're going to end up with it sort of splitting into solids and liquids. And once that happens, your cream will be good for nothing. You'll have to throw it away. So I can still see that this is a liquid. The whisk is moving through it really easily. So I'm happy to keep going and moving my beaters around. But as soon as I notice that I'm going to turn up the speed a bit. As soon as I notice it's starting to thicken, I'm going to take a lot more care. Turn the speed down a bit now. I'm just going to show you what it's like. Starting to thicken up now. Look, it's not as liquid as it was. That's really close to being ready. Starting to leave little trails in the cream, look, when the beaters are moving through it. So it's really close to being ready now. So I'm going to go on the lowest speed. I'll show you what this looks like now. You see it's really thick and gloopy, look. Literally 3 seconds more. 1, 2, 3, and then beaters out. Okay, and that is nice and thick and soft. If I were to carry on with that, I'd take it too far. So let's get the cream off beaters. There we go, try not to flick it everywhere. Right, so I'm going to bring my chocolate mixture back in now, and I'm going to grab a spoon, and I'm going to pop the whisked egg whites in first. And then with my whisk, I'm going to carefully stir that in. Just have to switch over to the spoon. Actually, a lot of the chocolate's getting stuck inside the beater, so learn from my lesson, use the spoon instead. I've incorporated all of the egg white now. Unfortunately, I have knocked a lot more of the air out than I would have liked to have done. I'll give you a few hints and tips on the day as to how we can try and resolve that. I think if I'd perhaps given it another bit of a stir before I added it, it would have loosened the mixture off a little bit, or maybe added a bit of the cream first, would have just made it all a little bit softer and lighter. Now I'm going to fold the cream in. I'm not going to go in, when you're adding the egg whites, when you're adding the cream, you don't want to go in like a bull in a china shop with any of it, because you've just taken all this time whisking air into the cream, whisking air into the egg whites. So to go in and give it a really good pounding is just going to knock all the air out. So we do want to be quite gentle with it. We'll just fold it all together and keep going until all of the mixture looks nice and even. Now we're ready to try and neatly place it into our ramekins. So I'm going to try not to get it all over the edge. If you've got one large container, then obviously you'll just scrape it into your large container. It is going to be quite rich, so we don't want masses of it. And I reckon it's going to make between 4 and 6 portions. So on the top of this one, I've just used a vegetable peeler to scrape some extra dark chocolate off onto the top to decorate. And then I'm going to put those in the fridge and they will set.